why wouldn't we want to apply the First Amendment to companies like Google or Facebook or others? What is the danger in enforcing First Amendment rights on these private platforms?
Yeah, I mean, the first problem you have is, again, they have their own First Amendment rights. So to convert someone from a First Amendment protected entity to someone with First Amendment obligations, just because of the kind of service that they provide, because they provide a forum for expression. These are large companies who themselves, may decide that they are more interested in facilitating expression. But frankly, if I am Mark Zuckerberg, and I have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars building a platform, then yeah, I do have an interest in making sure that the thing that I have spent my life building is not used in ways that are directly contrary to very core beliefs that I would hold, right? Now you may sort of compromise a lot of that, right? And they are looking to facilitate a wide range of expression, but there's obviously some line that just about all of us would cross. We don't want to push people out of the market of creating a platform like this. I mean, there are also things that exist that are smaller, more niche platforms, like GodTube, for example. GodTube is basically a social media platform that exists for religious believers to share content online. At what point does GodTube become a public forum? Is there a sort of a magic number of users where after it crosses that line, then it actually becomes a First Amendment obligated organization to permit whatever content people want to share there. So I think there's a lot of downside risk, and frankly, it could encourage people to not bother trying to create, particularly platforms like that, and the more sort of unique platforms that it encourages them or would discourage them from being in this space if they risk having their own expression, what they're trying to do, basically overtaken and strangely censored, actually, by the First Amendment obligations that would be placed on them.
Yeah, I would also add that it could run the risk of stifling innovation, maybe not perhaps technological innovation, but policy innovation within these companies. So even today, we saw Facebook announce that the first 20 members of the new oversight board are now in existence, right? The oversight board is now happening, and that is a very different approach than, let's say, companies like Twitter have taken, or even Google or others have taken, and having a single policy for all of these companies where you were First Amendment obligated entities really undermines the ability for these companies to figure out how to engage in their own balancing of these principles that they hold to be important to them. I know you've talked about this a bit, Neil.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting about this idea of applying, just the practical implication would be that, the platforms that you want to go visit are now basically at the same standard as, the guy who can stand in front of the state capitol, right? Is that the content that you are going to go back to platforms to see? These platforms are, porn is protected by the First Amendment. You have lots of things that most of us don't want to spend our time, beheading videos are protected by the First Amendment. There's lots of things you don't want to spend your time looking at that are protected by the First Amendment. And it's hard to see how these platforms would sort of square the need to provide a market that's interesting and attractive to consumers with that particular obligation. But the Facebook board, I do think that oversight board is interesting. It's an attempt to provide some independent oversight and decision making that's outside of the business. We'll see how it goes. I mean, like you said, it's innovative. It's not been tried before. it's different from how other companies are doing it. And I think it shows, back to our discussion around competition, it shows that there is pressure to do something in this space, to innovate in this space, and that companies are taking, really different approaches. So to me, that suggests competition is alive and well in the social media platform when it comes to diversity of speech policies, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And Mark, Mark in the Q&A, thanks for asking that. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, which is, I mean, just to play off of Neil there, it's always interesting to me when I see people talk about censorship by big tech, because there is quite a wealth of speech policies online by different platforms, and so it's not as if they are all speaking with the same voice, that the same sorts of content will be treated the same in every context. So I think there's a competition, as Neil said, competition is already sort of providing some answers here, and companies trying to move toward the address the concerns of one part of their audience or another, and that's a positive. So I think Facebook is obviously attempting to recognizes that it wants to be seen as a platform that is promoting voice in the U.S. and internationally, and it's created this oversight board to try to help position it well, to be able to speak to that those who care about that issue. Not everybody has done that, so there's a clear distinction right there between how Facebook is approaching this and some of the other platforms.